So I took some of my favorite phrases and decided that they should all be things that we should scrub from our vocabulary because they're simply not true, or they're misleading, or they're fear-based thinking. There's a lot of problems with this list. The first one, I've done everything and I can do anything. When I think about my sister-in-law with this one, she's a great person, got her head on very straight, and she was looking for work about a year and a half ago, and I said, tell me what you did at your old job. 15 minutes later, I said, Holly, love you to death. I'm a professional career development person. I stopped listening to you about 10 minutes ago. This approach, especially if you start to list everything that you've done, not effective. What you need to do then is to develop key talking points around what your interests are. So for example, in my life right now, I write and I talk to people and I do some program design. And so I have 3 different conversations that I can have at any point. Another common pitfall is talking about what you're running away from. This is a perpetual downer, and one of my least favorite aspects of being at a table at a fair is I just hate my corporate job, and this is wrong, and this is terrible, and Well, I'll give you a hug, and then tell you to go away and have some happy pills, because this is hard to deal with, and it also doesn't help people. One point is, talking about what you're running away from doesn't give people context with which to help you, what you're running toward, what you're excited about, what you're interested in doing. Those are the kind of conversations that have people going, oh, it's interesting that you mentioned that because there's this group out of Burbank that's doing whatever, right? Skills and experience aren't a free pass to the top. Skills and experience, especially in a town like Portland, Oregon, are definitely not a free pass to the top. And the more that people think that, the more they beat themselves up because they think I've got a PhD and I can't get an entry-level job. Number 4, this is the corporate mindset, the efficiency mindset. Why anybody would delude themselves into thinking that some nonprofit in town is waiting for the knight in shining armor to ride in on a horse and slay the dragons of inefficiency and difficult board members baffles me. This is condescending thinking as well as naive thinking. No matter what you're going to do, chances are you don't know as much. I would be very surprised if you knew as much as the people who are there doing the work. Whenever I join a committee or a board or talk to groups of people, inevitably toward the end of the second time that I get together with them, somebody always walks up to me and says, you didn't say much. And I'll say, I don't really talk for about 2 meetings at least, because then I feel like when I say something, I don't look like a fool because I've actually got a little bit of understanding. And maybe I do know what to do to clean this place up, but I'm not going to presume that I can just come in and go. Start my own nonprofit, please don't. Please. I'll beg. I'm not above that. If we can get the camera to pan down. I'll beg you not to start your own nonprofit. This is one of the slipperiest slopes of thinking out there for people who want to make a difference. I want to read to kids. I'm going to start my own nonprofit to read to kids. Okay, great. Well, that means you're going to be having lunch with potential funders. You're going to be arguing with your board. You're going to be managing your staff. You're going to be watching someone in the next room play with the kids. If you start a nonprofit, it does not mean that you are going to do the work that compels you. We'll get to the self-sector synergy bit in a second. Starting your own nonprofit is not the answer. One, because most people aren't actually interested in being an executive director. If you are, then great, start your own nonprofit. The other piece is that the sector is fiscally and human resource constrained across the board. The data around nonprofit work, 70% of nonprofits have an annual budget of less than $500,000. 70%. That means almost a full 3/4 of the sector is the equivalent of a mom and pop shop, or no staff at all. 70%. We did a deal with some HR surveys. One HR for up to 50 staff. Sorry, one HR, no, I take that back. No HR for up to 50 staff. One HR for staff between 50 and 300. So why are you going out there taking your skills and talents and starting yet another organization that is going to be cash-strapped and fiscally strapped? why not approach an organization that reads to kids and say, hey, I see that you don't have a Spanish reading program. I speak Spanish. I'd love to help you develop a Spanish reading program. So please don't. I can't afford to volunteer. And this gets into conversation that started with you choose your career path, you choose your direction. And if someone ever said to me, I can't afford to volunteer, my answer is if you're looking to work at a nonprofit, if you're looking to get involved in social impact work, you can't afford not to volunteer. Because you're a job hunter if you don't. And if you do volunteer, you cultivate and grow, and you believe in the power of connection. We also know from exhaustive amounts, the nonprofit sector is well studied, which I encourage you to pick up a book and read about. Nonprofits recruit from volunteers, board members, word of mouth, interns. So why aren't you out there putting a face to your piece of paper that is a resume that somebody who is the HR director for 300 staff, or the executive director who's also the development director, who's also the one who's vetting all of the resumes, why aren't you putting a face to that piece of paper? There's just so many things that I want to do. Great. So figure out how to talk about 2 or 3 of them, and figure out, and this gets into the last part, the self piece, figure out what are the key, most important pieces of what you want to do. Or, arguably worse, I don't know what I want to do. Well, then you shouldn't be talking to people. That's not true. You should be talking to people, but you should also be trying to figure that out. Which